Thank you for joining this episode of our webinar series on best practices in e-discovery. Today's episode is focused on helping a boutique law firm handle large document reviews in-house. My name is Jeff Fugit. I'm Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Lexpe, and I'll be the moderator for today's event. Our webinars take place monthly and cover a variety of relevant e-discovery topics, trends, best practices, as well as strategies. Space is limited to the capacity of our webinar platform, and with the popularity of these sessions, I recommend registering promptly for those that are of interest to you. If you have technical issues or questions, please email us at webinars@lexpe.com and we'll address those right away. Our webinars are available online at lexpe.com for viewing via streaming video or downloadable as a PDF presentation or MP3 podcast. You'll find this webinar and a complete listing of other webinars at lexpe.com. To be notified of future live and on-demand events, please email us at webinars@lexpe.com or follow us on LinkedIn. So a little bit about Lexpe. Based in Austin, Texas, we provide a very affordable cloud-based e-discovery platform as well as services. We really specialize in equipping the boutique firm with an e-discovery solution that gives them full control over the e-discovery process, DIY capabilities, and incredibly fast performance. We're the industry's most affordable and full-featured DIY e-discovery platform. We're the industry's fastest e-discovery processing and document review platform. We deliver the industry's fastest return on investment per a study that was done last year by G2 Crowd. And we've got a team of experienced e-discovery specialists and expert consultants who are all ACED certified and ready to assist on a moment's notice should our clients need it. If you'd like a demonstration of our platform, simply email us at sales@lexpe.com and we'll get that scheduled for you. Today's speakers are Philip Hearn, e-discovery manager at Lexpe, and Kathy Nickel, e-discovery specialist at Lexpe. They work with clients handling e-discovery and complex litigation, requiring a high level of precision and expertise. Both are certified by the Association of E-Discovery Specialists. And Philip and Kathy have over 25 years of combined experience in plaintiff and defense law firms in a variety of practice areas. For boutique firms, there really has never been a better time to handle document-intensive reviews in-house. The advancements in e-discovery technology, the ease of use of cloud platforms, and the ability to equip a team of lawyers and paralegals with the ability to quickly and cost-effectively manage a review in-house is unprecedented. With that said, the most significant challenge to accomplishing document reviews in-house is the massive growth in ESI and the exponential increase in ESI sources. So the boutique law firm now has to contend with data from mobile apps, you have location-based data, you have IoT, which stands for the Internet of Things. So you've got data from IoT devices, as the recent cases that involved Amazon providing data that was captured by Alexa. So you've got artificial intelligence involved in that as well as the proliferation of collaboration platforms and group chat capabilities like Slack. So the ESI landscape is not only growing, but it's getting much more complex and much more fragmented. So that's adding to the complexity and the challenge of addressing these matters in-house. So we will address these issues in today's session. And before I turn it over to Philip and Kathy, I'm going to ask a couple of polling questions to set the stage for today's presentation. And our first polling question is, how do you review documents for your large matters? Do you do that in-house? Do you outsource it? Do you outsource but would prefer to keep in-house, or other? And while you're answering that, I'll take this time to thank you for participating in our polling questions today. All right, I'll go ahead and close that poll. And then the next question that I have is, what percentage of your matters do you consider document intensive? All right, we've got a few more answers coming in. And I'll go ahead and close that poll. All right, and without further ado, I'll turn it over to Philip Hearn. Philip?
Thanks, Jeff. As Jeff said, Kathy and I are colleagues with professional services with Lexpe. and we both share a passion for this particular subject of planning and managing large document reviews in-house for small to medium-sized law firms. In a few moments, Kathy is going to begin sharing with us some specific details on how we can do that with the firms of our sizes and how best to go about setting a plan and an agenda to handle these large document reviews. So I'd like to introduce Kathy just real quick and have her say hello, and then we'll get started.
Hi, Philip.
Kathy, thank you. As we've stated before, we're here today to talk about the planning and management of large document reviews in-house for small to medium-sized law firms. Firms of all sizes with a dedicated and talented team can manage almost every large document review in-house. And in the event a case becomes so complex that contract reviewers must be employed, that same solid plan can work effectively. There are basic steps that are universal in achieving that goal. So what are these steps? What should we be looking for and talking about with our own firms? This is why Kathy's here with us today. And she has put together a step-by-step approach for tackling these large document reviews. So Kathy, I want to welcome you back.
Thanks, Philip. As Philip mentioned, my name is Kathy Nickel, and I'm an e-discovery specialist here at Lexpe. Prior to working as an e-discovery specialist, I spent many years as a mass tort litigation paralegal in a medium-sized law firm, assisting with review and management of large document productions. Having worked on numerous multi-district litigations and other consolidated mass tort litigations, I've assisted with many large document reviews that have been handled in a variety of different ways, depending on the circumstances, the volume of discovery, the tools available, and the deadlines. In some multi-district litigations, or MDLs as they're also called, that I've worked on, we've had massive review teams made up mostly of paralegals and associates from firms that make up the steering committees for the MDLs. So this means that a number of document reviewers are spread across the country reviewing document productions in one platform simultaneously. So prior to starting these types of document reviews, we held meetings at my firm or at a conference center close by for the entire document review team. So everyone would fly in for these all-day, sometimes multiple-day training sessions, which consist of presentations on the background and science of the case, and then training in the platform. In other instances, we've hired numerous contract reviewers, both in-state, out-of-state, and sometimes even out of the country when we needed foreign language speaking reviewers to assist our firm with large document reviews. And finally, we've handled document reviews solely with in-house staff using some of the methods that we'll talk about today. In all of these situations, there's two things that were very clear. We needed a plan of attack prior to starting review, and communication between the review team is critical. So one thing my experience and knowledge has taught me is that document review has drastically changed, even just in the past 5 to 10 years, thanks to the ever-evolving e-discovery technology that's available. As Philip alluded to, it's now more than ever very possible for small to medium-sized law firms to manage large document reviews in-house with the right tools. Outsourcing large document reviews is now the exception rather than the rule, as it used to be.
So let's get to the good stuff and get this conversation started. The agenda today, we're going to be covering several topics. We're going to be talking about planning a large document review, determining review methodology, staffing considerations, tracking and reporting, production options and timelines, and of course, at the end, some practical tips and takeaways. So Kathy, kick us off with these initial steps you see as the most important to getting started with a large document review, beginning, of course, with the planning phase. Kathy?
When it comes to reviewing a large volume of documents, it's imperative that you start planning as soon as possible. You'll want to begin planning prior to the Rule 26F conference, since you'll need to have an understanding of this information going into that initial meeting with opposing counsel, so you can be prepared to discuss the production sources, the custodians, the estimated volume of data, the format of production, those types of things. A few things that are essential when planning a large document review are, first, the ability to perform an early case assessment. An early case assessment is essentially a preliminary assessment of the case from the available data. By performing an early case assessment, you can typically determine the volume of documents that you have, the date range for the documents, the page count, those types of things. Additionally, you'll want to gain an understanding of the types of documents you're dealing with to help you better plan your review. So for example, if your document production is plagued with hard copies of 30-year-old documents that have been scanned in, which now have poor OCR quality and little metadata, this is going to require a different review and search plan than if you had native files with excellent OCR and complete metadata. Your search terms are only going to be as good as the quality of your documents. Additionally, if you have a large number of Excel files, those will need to be reviewed in native format, likely, which can add time, and it's also going to prompt additional discussions around production of those Excel files. So understanding your data is important here. Additionally, when planning your document review, you're of course going to want to discuss the budget. So here you're going to want to take into account the volume of documents to be reviewed, which you now know from your early case assessment. The time frame for review, for instance, a short time frame may require overtime pay or additional reviewers. The review methodology, whether you're going to use TAR or linear review. The format of production, TIFF or image productions, will be larger and they're going to take up more space than native productions. A few of the biggest cost drivers will be the estimated time frame for review, the number of reviewers, and the volume of data. And then, of course, you're going to want to discuss the timeline, which we'll get into a bit more.
Thank you, Kathy. Timing is a big issue for us and everyone. It was especially for us in the very beginning when I was a paralegal and we started getting these cases that were much larger. We had to consider the timing aspects of those. We found ourselves with new challenges as the universe of documents related to our cases grew in volumes. The time it takes for pre-processing, culling, producing, learning how these processes can affect the calendar are very important. So Kathy, what do you do to educate firm members on recognizing and planning for these new challenges with managing the calendar?
The major e-discovery steps that need to be taken into consideration timing-wise are the collection of data, processing data, culling down the data, reviewing the data, depots and motions, and then trial and appeal. So today we're focusing our discussion mostly on the culling, review, and production phases of e-discovery. But know that the collection and processing phases, will also need to be discussed and included in your overall timeline and budget. After data has been collected and processed, the next steps are to cull down the data, then begin your review. You can also do the culling prior to the processing step too. The review process will almost always take the bulk of your time. And keep in mind that although the production phase moves fairly quickly, you should allow yourself more time for running a production than you think is going to be necessary. If you're able to start a production a week before the deadline, you should be in good shape because you'll likely have to look back through your ESI order one more time if one exists prior to running the production. You'll need time to review and QC the final production. And you'll want to give yourself a couple extra days in the event that there's an issue with the production or conversion. If your timeline only provides 1 day for the production, Murphy's Law says that something will go wrong and you don't want to miss that production deadline. So add at least a week for your production to your timeline if you can.
Kathy, you and I have been around long enough to see the difference in litigation where the parties do not come together in the beginning at a Rule 26 conference to discuss these issues, and how not discussing this in the beginning has a negative impact on everyone involved. An ESI order just simply makes things easier for everyone involved, from the attorneys to the judges. And it will eliminate a lot of these headaches that you have in the very beginning and as you're getting finished with your discovery. So Kathy, why don't you explain a little bit more about the ESI order, and please show us an example of one if you can.
An ESI order is a formalized agreement or order that sets forth the protocol and format of electronically stored information during the discovery process. ESI orders are definitely advisable. Having an agreed upon order in place will streamline the discovery and help avoid delays and reduce costs. So this should be discussed with opposing counsel and set in place as early as possible. At the Rule 26F conference would be ideal. So, or at least bring a draft ESI agreement to that conference, which you can discuss with opposing counsel. So here we have a clip from a template ESI order. ESI orders often include information about how data is collected and preserved, which is another reason why it's so important to set this in place as early as possible. If the parties have agreed upon search terms that should be used for collecting data, this information can be included in the ESI protocol as well. So Bates numbering, duplicates, email families, privilege information, all of that will be covered in an ESI order. The ESI order is also going to cover the format of production, whether the data will be produced in TIFF images or PDFs only, or whether natives will be included. We've seen many instances where there is not an ESI order in place, and opposing counsel is then unhappy with the format in which they receive the documents, which brings about back and forth emails, phone calls, and meetings, ultimately rerunning productions, and at times involves motions and court intervention, which is ultimately going to lead to an ESI order being implemented. So the moral of the story is having an ESI order in place from the beginning of the litigation will save you time, costs, and headache.
Okay, Kathy, so let's face it. In today's digital and cloud environment, almost all discovery means it's a large document review. So Kathy, understanding what you have already shared with us today and how to get off on the right foot before discovery begins, what are some practical steps that someone currently in discovery can do to make this process more manageable?
You're exactly right. There's been an exponential growth of ESI in recent years, which creates massive volumes of data during the discovery phase of litigation. Fortunately, technology has also advanced exponentially, making it easier for small to medium-sized law firms to manage significant document reviews. The advanced technology we have today has made culling processes easier and more effective. Whether you're on the producing or the receiving side of a large production, culling down your data can be one of the greatest cost-cutting methods, if not the greatest. There's a number of ways to cull your data, for instance, by denisting, which is a method of removing file types that will likely have no evidentiary value. You can also cull based on specific date ranges or keywords. So when you're doing this, when you're culling based on search terms and keywords, you need to understand the platform's search capabilities prior to doing this. So for example, if you're able to run Boolean searches, proximity searches, concept searching, stemming searching, etc. Deduplication is another essential culling method. And once deduplication has been run, you'll have to determine whether the duplicates will be deleted from the case or whether they're simply going to be suppressed from review. Near duplication can also be very effective. Near duplication uses percentages of similarity as a threshold for grouping together like documents. There are a number of benefits with running near duplication in your case, including ensuring that your like documents are coded consistently. You can also use near duplication as a culling method by suppressing all but one near duplicate from a review set. That is, if you're confident enough that the documents are significantly similar to each other. These methods can easily cut the volume of data you have in half, which will save you a ton of time and money. You'll see in this example, deduplication alone has brought this data set from 1,744 documents to 1,077. So if other methods are applied on top of this, near duplication, denisting, date ranges, and keyword searches, you can see how quickly we can cut down half, maybe even more than half in this instance of the data very quickly. Now let's talk about selecting a review methodology. Let's start with the linear review. A linear review is often considered the more traditional method of reviewing documents. In a linear review, reviewers are going to read, review, and code all of the documents one at a time. Typically, linear review methods are best for small document count cases or very important cases. We also have a keyword search review. With this method, you identify responsive and privileged documents using search keywords. This method is going to be best for large document count cases that have short production deadlines and a limited review budget. And then we have predictive coding or technology-assisted review. With this methodology, a training set of documents is coded as responsive and non-responsive by a reviewer, which is then used to code the remainder of the large document set. This is going to be best for large document count cases with short production deadlines and a limited review budget. Here we have the pros and cons of each of the review methodologies we discussed. you'll see for the linear review, although this is the most thorough method for reviewing documents, it's also the most time consuming because it's a doc by doc review. The keyword search reviews are very fast and they can save you time and money, but it's also possible that relevant documents can be missed using this methodology or that too much data can be produced. Predictive coding is also very fast and can be a very thorough method for document review so long as the reviewer coding the sample set is well qualified and well trained. Predictive coding may cost more depending on the platform you're using, but it's also going to save you cost in less review time. So you and your firm will need to decide which method is best for your case, depending on the circumstances of your case. Next, we'll talk a bit about staffing considerations and using in-house staff versus outsourcing document review. The majority of firms would prefer to manage the document review in-house for a number of reasons. For example, it's going to limit costs of hiring contract attorneys and paralegals. And the in-house staff may already have knowledge of the case and the issues at hand, whereas outside reviewers will have to be educated on the cases, the issues, the custodians, et cetera. And this is going to require additional time. Contract reviewers also tend to have a higher turnover rate than in-house staff, which results in additional time training new contract workers. I've seen many instances where a great deal of time is spent training contract reviewers on the platform and getting them up to speed on the case and communicating with them regarding their review, only to have them leave after a couple of weeks or a couple days. And then the process and training starts all over again with a new reviewer. When in-house staff are typically more stable and have a lower turnover rate than contract reviewers. Also, you take a risk when you hire someone brand new. If they can't keep up or don't understand the facts of the case fully, then this can result in coding errors, which is going to require additional time and money to re-review sets. So many firms also don't want to provide access to their data to others outside the firm for security or confidentiality reasons. The biggest con in the past for large document reviews in-house has been trying to review a large set of documents with a much smaller staff. This can mean long hours for the few employees that are completing the review and struggling to meet deadlines due to the limited staff. For example, if one reviewer is sick or unavailable for a couple days in the past, this could significantly impact a deadline. Luckily, the advancements in technology that we've made have made it possible in most cases to keep a large document review in-house. Large volumes of data can usually be culled down to more manageable sizes by running deduplication, near duplication, denisting, and culling by date range and keywords. Also, the review methodologies that we've discussed can cut down on more time and the amount of staff necessary for the document review.
Kathy, all of this information should be extremely valuable to our guests listening to us today. And now that we have discussed this in more detail regarding what types of review methodologies are available to handle these large document reviews in-house, let's give everyone an idea of how to put this goal into a plan. One of my favorites, Tom Landry, is quoted as saying this, that setting a goal is not the main thing. It is deciding how you will go about achieving it and staying with that plan. So Kathy, in your experience, how do you draft that plan for review?
You always want to start with a plan. A successful document review plan should include drafting the review protocol. You must have a protocol in place prior to beginning the review. So you should provide direction to your reviewers who are going to be analyzing the documents and making decisions. Decide which coding options you're going to use. For example, whether you're going to stick with the basic responsive, non-responsive, privilege, et cetera, or whether you're going to create your own custom codes or tags. Also discuss internally whether there will be a second pass review or whether a more senior reviewer is going to check a sampling of the reviewer's work. You'll also want to identify relevant custodians prior to the review, and you can set up these custodians in your platform prior to starting the review. Also discuss the case issues and potentially create the facts and issues timeline structure prior to starting the review. Another part of your review protocol should include how the document reviewers manage redactions and privilege review. You should provide your document reviewers with the criteria for what information should be redacted and what information should be privileged. It's best to provide them with examples of both. Additionally, reviewers are also going to need a list of the custodians or employees that are attorneys to help them determine privilege. Also, if you've run dedupe or near dupe in your case, explain to your reviewers how to check that exact or near duplicates are coded consistently if you haven't deleted them from your case. Another thing to keep in mind is discuss with your reviewers what qualifies as a hot or a key document and show them examples of each. Discuss tagging documents to certain facts or issues of a case that you've set up. Tagging documents to these issues during the initial review can help you avoid a re-review later when you're prepping for depots, hearings, or trial, thereby saving you time and money. It's a good idea to provide reviewers with a number of things prior to beginning the document review. If you're using an in-house staff, they may not need all of this information depending on your staff's knowledge of the case already, but you should provide them with a copy of the complaint or other relevant motions that outline the allegations and facts of the case so that they have some background, and then provide them with a copy of the document request. Also, if there's a memo or attorney work product available that's been prepared by the trial team or the court e-discovery team that includes the facts and issues of the case, you'll want to give that to your reviewers to give them some background prior to their review. In my experience as part of being part of a core e-discovery team for a number of mass tort litigations, we would have binders put together for our reviewers, which contained all of the information that we just discussed, and then also examples of hot, privileged, redacted documents so that they have everything in one organized place, and then they're going to refer back to this during their review. So everything that we've just talked about takes place before the review happens. Then, using whatever review methodology your firm has chosen, your reviewers will review and code your culled down manageable set of documents using the parameters and specifications you've provided them with. During the review process, check to make sure you're on track with where you anticipated you'd be, and if not, you'll need to adjust your budget and timeline accordingly. Communication is key with document reviewers. You should touch base with your reviewers daily to find out if they have any coding questions and also get a feel for what they're seeing in the documents. If there are oddities or issues with the data, you'll want to know this right away. For instance, maybe there's a number of blank documents for whatever reason, or they're seeing a large volume of irrelevant documents. Then you'd want to know this as soon as possible so that you can apply further culling methods if necessary to get rid of this irrelevant information en masse. And to also, you'd want to correct any data issues that they've come across that may have occurred during the collection or processing to ensure that all of the relevant information is being reviewed. And now you're ready to produce your responsive documents to opposing counsel. When running a production, the following issues need to be addressed, most of which should have at least preliminarily been discussed amongst the team in the pre-planning stage. You'll need to know if will there be someone that's going to double check the documents marked responsive prior to running them in a production? And if so, whose job is that? What's the timeline for your production? As we discussed earlier, you're going to plan on running the production a week prior to the deadline to account for any unexpected issues and to create the privilege and redaction log if necessary. Ensure your production is in accordance with the parameters set forth in the ESI order. You'll want to make sure you're using the production format that you need to be, whether it's TIFF, PDF, whether you need to include natives. Ensure that your load files contain all the data necessary per the ESI order, etc. Also, you'll need to QC your production. If your production says that you're producing 20,000 documents, check your final production and make sure that you're actually producing 20,000 documents. You'll want to check a sampling of the documents to look at the Bates number and any confidential or other custom designation stamps that you've put on your documents. And check to make sure that your load files include all the data required by the ESI order. And then you're ready to send it to opposing counsel.
Thanks, Kathy. I have really enjoyed being with you today and discussing this topic that I know we are both very passionate about. The bottom line is that legal teams, solo practitioners, small firms, any firm really should be recognizing the realities of today's discovery's best practices and the new frontiers of technology in the legal community. And the truth is that now even the small firms can level the playing field with the larger dominant firms. In our last few minutes together, Kathy, what are some last-minute practical tips and takeaways that we can take with us today as we all go back to work in our offices and our firms across the country and help to represent our clients?
In my opinion, two of the most important factors in a successful large document review are communication and planning. Talk with your reviewers often. Don't wait weeks to get updates from them. By then, they may have assumed they were coding things correctly, but come to find out they weren't, and now you've lost weeks of work that has to be redone. And plan. Start early and figure out your timeline, budget, and plan for the entire e-discovery process we just talked about, the collection, processing, culling, review, production, etc. And adjust your timeline accordingly and your budget if necessary as you move through the process. A few other tidbits we discussed. It's imperative to understand the data that will be reviewed before starting the review process. You need to know where the data came from, the types of documents that are being reviewed, etc. This is going to help with determining how long it's going to take for the review. If cases involve if the case involves a lot of complex issues and there's a large number of documents that will need to be redacted, then you'll need to account for that in your timeline and review budget. Also, if documents are scanned PDFs with poor quality, then the quality of the keyword searches or date range searches may not be sufficient, and you may need to manually review these documents. So that's going to need to be accounted for in your timeline and budget. And lastly, the more data you're able to cull down prior to beginning the review, the better. Your review will be faster and less expensive due to the decreased hosting costs and less hours your reviewers have spent. So it's been a pleasure speaking with you today about planning and managing large document reviews. As we discussed, today's advanced culling methods and review methodologies provide small to medium-sized law firms the ability to handle these large document reviews in-house.
Kathy, thank you again so much. This has been a wonderful time today talking to you about this and going through these. And I hope that everyone that's listened to us has enjoyed this. And if they have any questions or comments, I hope that we get to hear from them in regard to that. But with that, we have reached the end of our webinar. And so now I will turn this back over to our moderator for the conclusion. Thank you guys, and everyone have a wonderful day.
Philip and Kathy, that was a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much for that insight. For more than 13 years, we've been on the leading edge of e-discovery and have helped thousands of lawyers, paralegals, and e-discovery professionals with their matters. We have a highly advanced cloud-based e-discovery platform that will outperform any big law on-prem system for a fraction of the cost. We also have deep expertise developing keyword strategies by case type. Our professional services team consists of ACET certified litigation paralegals with experience across all types of matters. And when you combine their expertise with the advanced capabilities and intelligence of the Lexb Discovery platform, you have a highly effective approach to addressing these document-intensive matters and getting your review done quickly. The stacks of servers that you see on this slide represent our on-demand capabilities. So when you load documents into our platform, we dynamically turn on the optimal number of servers to get your job done at a fraction of the cost of other platforms. We also split up the workload of processing, OCR, and indexing in order to get you from document ingestion to review faster than any other platform. So I already discussed how our platform scales to get you to review faster, but that same architecture enables you to search faster and get search results faster. Because you get high performance, highly efficient, multi-threaded search capability with an index that identifies each unique word and its location, it helps you progress through your document review workflow faster. So this enables you to instantly search terabytes of text in split seconds and dynamically update your index with new or changed documents, including translated documents, without having to re-index the entire data set. We also equip you with a very simple user interface so you can very easily and quickly code the documents that you need. One of Lexb's innovations is the Uber index. This is our concatenated index that combines the native characters, which is important in those use cases where you have hidden characters in Excel files, as well as OCR characters, so characters in images and translated characters. So all of this data is concatenated into a single index, and this equips you with the largest searchable data set in order to find the evidence and privileged documents for your matter. In addition to the Uber index, LexB makes sure you're equipped to search for the documents you need for your case by processing a massive variety of file types. So this includes email file types, macOS files, iPhone files, social media files, as well as collaboration application files like Google Hangouts. When I mentioned simple user interface, here's an example. This is a Google Hangout file that is rendered in the LexB eDiscovery platform. All you have to do is drag and drop the Google Hangout JSON file to the LexB eDiscovery platform. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, which in essence is a container that houses data and objects. As you can see with this screenshot, the result makes it very easy for you to search and review these just like they're rendered in the native application. The LexB eDiscovery platform includes technology-assisted review as well as near-dupe groupings. These are very helpful for large document-intensive matters. Near-dupe groupings in particular is very powerful, especially when dialogues cross communication modalities, so it helps you find all of those similar documents. Near-dupe is also highly effective in helping you search for and identify privileged documents and therefore prevent them from falling through the cracks into a production. So you'll quickly be able to identify similar documents and encode them appropriately. Here are some of the results of the G2 crowd survey that I mentioned at the beginning of today's session. The one thing that I wanted to point out is the industry's best return on investment. We achieved this because we help organizations handle eDiscovery in-house versus having to outsource it. So from a business case standpoint, LexB is very efficient. It gives you full control over your cases. It helps you efficiently utilize your employees, and it helps you slash the cost of eDiscovery in your matters. And with that, I'll ask our last polling question, and that is, would you like a demonstration of the LexB eDiscovery platform? And while you're answering that, I'll thank you for attending today's session. We'll be making the following available to webinar attendees: a recorded streaming version, an MP3 podcast, as well as a PDF. Please let us know if you have any questions or comments about this webinar or suggestions for future topics. This webinar is part of the LexB eDiscovery webinar series. For notices of future live and on-demand webinars as part of this series, please email us at webinars@lexb.com or follow us on LinkedIn. And watch your inbox for an invite to our next webinar on best practices in eDiscovery. Have a great